Hey, what's up? It's Julie B here with my weekly update, my behind the scenes of being a business owner. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Next week, I think I am going to be able to go live for these. So I'm going to start doing these live. And if you're subscribed, you get a notification and it'll still be there and available to you. But just smash that subscribe button because that does help me out quite a bit. So, what has gone on this week? Well, it's hard to believe that it's Friday, first of all. I feel like the week just started and it's Friday. Um, Next week, I'm traveling and I'm dealing with some, helping one of my parents basically get to a surgery and then dealing with aftercare for that. And then I'm traveling right after that. So, surprise, I'm basically taking next week off a little bit, half of the week unexpectedly. So, there's some stuff that comes with that as a business owner. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the first thing I really want to mention is dropping it here first, I think. Um, I won a Gold Davy Award for being a podcast host. So I'm officially an award-winning podcast host. Now, I am an award-winning podcaster. I actually have 3 award-winning podcasts now, but this is the first time I've won an award as a host, as someone who interviews people and hosts that conversation. And I won a gold, which is pretty awesome. The Davy Awards have been around in marketing in this industry for longer than I've been in the marketing industry. I think this is the 18th annual Davy Awards. So, it's really an honor. And they only awarded 6 gold awards for podcast host, and I was one of them. I mean, I'm in there with like true crime podcasts and other types of podcasts that I cannot believe that I won an award. So, as a podcast host, I cannot believe that I was only basically at the furthest 7th place, I guess, from winning like a best in show award. So, yeah, it's really a big honor, big deal, and we're gonna put more out about it when I get back from my trip. But I wanted to throw that out here. So that's been a really awesome moment this week that we got that news. But I also want to share with you, like this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. How I think last week or maybe the week before, I don't really remember, but how achieving goals and success are not the same thing, or at least they shouldn't be because on the surface, winning an award, yeah, it's awesome. I'm I'm so excited. But as soon as I won that award, you know what? Within probably 30 minutes, I was telling my team, best in show is now the goal. So while, yeah, it's awesome, I'm stoked that we've hit that milestone. I can now say that I'm an award-winning podcast host. This is what I'm talking about. If I only defined success by doing things like winning awards for podcasts or being an entrepreneur or the amount of money in my bank account, if I only defined my success by those things, the truth is that I don't have a ton of control over those things. I can do the behaviors that set me up to achieve those goals. But at the end of the day, somebody else determines if I'm that award winner, right? And somebody else determines like if they're going to pay me for a service or not. So I can do things that help me achieve those goals. But on the flip side of that, there's always, you got to remember like there's only so much that's in your control. And sometimes you don't achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So if you don't have a definition of success that is separate of your goals, then you can see why sometimes people, even though they have achieved so many amazing things in their lives, they may not feel successful. So I'm just kind of reiterating that because I thought it was funny that one of the first things I thought after realizing that I had won that award, within 30 minutes, I was thinking, okay, next year the goal is best in show. So there's that as an example. So still very excited though about the fact that we won that award. So something kind of switching here. I wanted to talk about something I listened to on the Calm app today with Jay Shetty. He does, I think, the Daily Jay is what it's called over there, and it's an older one of his, but it's the title of this story was called "Switch Stress Story" or "Switch Your Stress Story," and if you followed along, I have a book coming out about burnout in 2024. And you also know that stress, when it's left unchecked, leads to burnout. Stress and burnout are not the same thing. We all have stress. Um, but if it's left unchecked, it will lead down the path to burnout. But the point of what I learned from Jay this morning was, and to try to switch our stress stories, it's a really, God, it's such a powerful concept. So stress is something that can be a motivator. Um, and it can also be something that really is harmful. And whether we believe that stress is going to be harmful to us, or if we believe that stress is going to motivate us, we are right. Now, not to say that there aren't stressors that happen that we have no control over and that are very hard to deal with, no matter what the scenario is. Sometimes things happen, like a parent dying, or a parent needing surgery, or um, meeting that book deadline. These are all things that I'm stressed about. That I have. Well, the book deadline I have some control over, but obviously the parent stuff, not really a lot of control there. So, there are things that happen in our lives that are stressful, and I don't want to mitigate, or I don't want to minimize that. I do want to help you mitigate the stress, but I don't want to minimize the impact that it has. But the book deadline is probably a good example. I can decide whether or not that stress is going to cause me, you know, to not feel well, or I can decide that that stress is going to be a motivator. And I've always been somebody who works really great on deadlines. I've been a little bit of a, well, I'm a pretty good procrastinator. I have ADHD, so that kind of comes with the territory, but it is something that I've learned to work with in terms of deadlines and things along those way and things along that route. Um, it's not about saying that everything is fine when it's not. It's not about telling ourselves that everything is fine when it's not, but it is about deciding what our perspective is going to be on the stress or on the impact of that stress. So I think that sometimes life, we have to let life happen around life. And we can kind of decide sometimes how we're going to let that stress impact us. And, we usually think of stress as bad, right? When you hear the word stress, when you go to the doctor and you have high blood pressure, or you're not sleeping, or, or you go to therapy and you're dealing with anxiety, one of the first things that you'll talk about is stress. And there's often the advice of reduce your stress, which is, it's, yeah, of course, it's great advice, but sometimes it's not realistic advice. And you still need a way to manage within the stress that you're dealing with, and figure out a way um, to protect yourself from it while you're still dealing with it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And when I listened to Jay's talk today, it really made me understand that, we can have different perspectives on stress. That is one thing that I think we can control. When my mother-in-law passed away, I was really stressed out. I was trying to do, run my businesses and also be there for my family. And I kind of stopped. And the stress was still there of having a mother pass away. But I shifted my perspective in terms of what I wanted, my perspective to being more focused on the opportunity and the time that I got to spend with my extended family during that time, and see people that I hadn't seen, and some of them literally in 13 years. Some people, I was meeting some of my wife's cousins for the first time. So it was, it was all very stressful, very hard. But I think that's an example of how I shifted my perspective to, not letting the stress be so overwhelming, and being worried about all of the things at work and all of the things at, dealing with the loss of Connie, my wife's mom. I think that I did a decent job of shifting the stress there and shifting my perspective on the stress. It isn't that the stress went away, it was my perspective, and honestly honoring it. And I just thought that, that's a great example of how, as business owners, there's a lot outside of our control, but we do have the control to change our perspective on some things. And I think that especially when it comes to stress. And my book talks about changing your perspective on burnout, honoring it and understanding that, sometimes good things come out of really hard moments. Usually the best things come out of the really hard moments in life. That's been my experience. Maybe I just have a different experience in life, but often the most stressful times and the hardest times that test us the most, the best things come from that. And I think if we can have that perspective, it's a healthier perspective. And then Jay's point was that, and he cited a scientific study, but that stress, based on our perception of it, dictates kind of what happens in our body when we're stressed. So if we can start looking at some of the stress that we carry as business owners as good stress and having a good outlook on it and knowing that, yeah, it's there, yeah, it's hard, and yeah, something good's going to come from it. Or I'm already seeing these good things. It's forcing me to slow down. It's forcing me to speed up, whatever it is. I think if we can see the good that comes from stress, that was the point, that it will have a lesser negative impact on our lives and our bodies. So yeah, I took a lot from that about changing your stress story. I think that was a really great title for that meditation. It's really a story that he tells us, not so much meditation and story, but it was really just an interesting thing. So, I was looking at my own life, and man, family stuff, as you get older, it just gets harder. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and this is the stuff that business owners don't talk about a lot of, I think, unless you have your support group and that small, really tight community. And even then, sometimes you don't share as much stuff. And I'm not going to share details, but I've got a parent who is having surprise surgery next week, basically. I'm still facing surgery, but now I'm still trying to integrate physical therapy into my schedule before surgery. I'm traveling next week, still grieving the loss of my mother-in-law. Businesses are still not exactly where I want them to be. I'm actually looking at bringing in a potential partner for my marketing agency. So, and along with that, like I'm having more urge to kind of get out of my home office and go work, in other places and figure that all out. There's just, and honestly, like renegotiating contracts with existing clients, all while knowing there's these major changes happening in my business. All of that is going on behind the scenes. And, this is what you see, and you see my reels on social media, and you see my TikToks and all of that. And all of that stuff is really accurate and true as well. But this is the behind the scenes of being a business owner. It's really hard to separate personal from business, from work from life. I personally think work-life balance, that term, I think is bullshit, especially for business owners. I don't think it's a thing for business owners because I think everything is so enmeshed, and it takes a lot of effort to make sure that you are present for the thing that you are doing in the moment. I think that is actually the key. It's work-life presence, not necessarily work-life balance. I sometimes call it work-life harmony, which means things are flowing as they need to flow with each other. But I think what business owners actually are looking for is work-life presence and being where you are at that moment. So right now, I'm doing work. I'm working. I'm making this video. Later this afternoon, my wife and I are going to look at Christmas decorations because I love Christmas. It's like my favorite season. And honestly, yes, I'm that person who puts them up the day after Halloween. This year is going to be a little bit crazier because I'm not going to be in town the day after Halloween or that weekend after Halloween. So we're setting up some Christmas decorations this weekend. So, but I want to make sure that I'm in the present wherever I am. And I think that is more of the goal for business owners than work-life balance, because it's I don't know. I have a lot of feelings around that phrase, work-life balance. I think it comes from a good intention, but it's hard to achieve. And if you don't achieve it, you feel like a failure. So instead of work-life balance, I'm looking for work-life presence right now. So anyways, those are just, I know again, I tend to kind of ramble in these videos, but those are just some things that are going on behind the scenes. I won this award. And 30 minutes later, I was asking myself, what's next, which just reiterates that whole point of, success does not equal achieving goals, and achieving goals does not equal success. And if you only define success by the goals you achieve, it's really hard to feel successful because there's always a next, there's always a new milestone. And then that kind of went into, just trying to have a different perspective on stress, whatever the stress is. If you can look at stress and say something good's going to come from this and just feel that, like really feel that, it might lessen the impact it has on you and your physical health and your mental health. That's just an idea. And thanks again to Jay Shetty for bringing that out. And then finally, man, work-life presence, I think that might be the first time I've actually used that term. I use work-life harmony a lot. Need to slow down. I'm recording a podcast interview here in a few minutes, so trying to rush through this to get to that, but let's practice some work presence. I'm present here with you, and I think going forward that I'm really going to focus on work-life presence, and I think that'll also help with stress. So I got a lot of life stuff coming up over the next week, definitely, and I'm looking forward to a lot of it, quite frankly. Just means I'm probably going to be more present in that and less present at work, which, I just did that, so I can do it again for sure. So anyways, listen, have a great weekend or whenever you watch this. Thanks for watching. Just be sure to subscribe again. Let me know if any of this is helpful. That always helps me because then I know like what I need to talk about and what I need to not talk about. I am really trying to focus on kind of the behind the scenes of things that maybe not so much what we're doing behind the scenes, but kind of what business owners think and what business owners go through in their thought process behind the scenes of winning awards and getting new clients and posting, twice a day on TikTok. What's going on behind the scenes? That's what I'm really interested in. So anyways, subscribe to this channel. I'll be back hopefully next week and hopefully live. I'm excited about doing that with y'all. Fingers crossed that I actually get approved to do that. But yeah, I'll be back next week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. And I look forward to sharing more behind the scenes. I look forward to that. Jesus. How do I sign out of these things? I don't even know. All right. Peace out, guys. I'll see you next week.